Okay, let's have a look at this email from Woodpeckers. They've got a product on sale, $69.99. Very interesting, although I think this has been around for a while, but it's on sale, so maybe I'll buy it. I'd like to know if my blade and my fence were both aligned. I have measured them and I've used a right angle on them. They seem aligned, but this would definitely tell me for sure. Let's watch the video and see. Let's skip through, see how it works. Oh, uses a dial indicator and a block with some rods. Pretty ingenious, but I could probably accomplish the same thing with a mini sled and a dial indicator. I have some scrap wood and I know I have a dial indicator, so let me see if I can build this thing for nothing instead of spending $69. Let's begin. Now my whole goal here is to make this dead simple, and in theory this should work very easily. I don't know yet because I haven't tried it. We're going to try it here on video. Some of the key components: a dial indicator, which you can pick these up on Harbor Freight for around $15. I will post an Amazon link in the description below the video where you can purchase them there as well. And a couple of pieces of scrap wood. Here is our base, and this will be the scrap we're going to use for our miter slot. Aside from that, something to attach those pieces together: glue, screws, just the basics. The first thing I'm going to do is to cut the actual slide for the miter slot. Be sure to measure yours, take a little bit off each time. If you have a job site saw, they will be different than a cabinet style saw. The first cut I'm making is for the width of the actual miter slot. Now you want to cut this a little large and take a little bit off at a time because you want this to fit in here super tight with no play. And that is a perfect fit. Now you also want it a little bit below the surface of the table saw. Now the size of the slider and the base piece, they are really not relevant. The longer you make it, the more accurate it's going to be. I'm going to cut my miter slot section to the exact length of the base. Doesn't matter, just for aesthetic reasons. It's a little longer than the actual base. Now that we have the rail cut to the exact size of the base, we're going to attach. I'm going to use some glue and some brad nails. You can certainly use glue and wood screws, or you could simply just use glue. I'm going to line this up, but at the end of the day, it honestly does not matter. Now I'm ready to test the miter slot out. I'm going to put the block in place. It's good and tight. Now you will notice the blade interferes. This was purposely done. I'm going to cut it off, and I'm going to cut it even a little shorter. Now we're going to head to the miter saw and cut another 1/4 inch off. Now I removed that 1/4 inch from the end of the base so it would not interfere with the blade. I did not want it to hinder the readings. The wood could possibly push up against the blade, giving you a false reading. Now we're going to raise the blade. We're going to mark for our dial indicator. I'm going to simply set it on the side here, up against the blade. Not too tight, but you want it to touch, and place a mark. There's where we need to screw or make a hole. Now you could certainly just screw this right in using a wood screw. I am going to use some brass inserts because I need to remove this from time to time to use it for other projects. Once we have our hole drilled, we will insert our brass insert. There we go. I will also put Amazon links for the brass insert kit. Comes with some brass inserts, the drill bit, and the insertion tool. Or you can just use a wood screw with the washer, whatever is more convenient. If you're using the insert method, make sure you have a screw that matches the thread pattern. These are 1/4 and that's what we're going to use. Now all there's left to do is test it out. I have not tested it yet. We're going to do it on camera, so fingers crossed. Before we get to that, just like the woodpecker's model, this serves two functions. We can test the trueness of our blade. Also, that will actually test the trunnion. So if you got a new blade on there and it's out of whack, and you know maybe your trunnion is a little bit off on your actual saw from your miter slot. And then also our actual fence. We can test the straightness of our fence just like the woodpecker's model. We're going to show you both. The first thing we're going to do is line it up to the edge of the blade. We are going to zero it out. So we've got it zeroed in, and then let's slide it and see. Maybe a slight bow in the middle, but that's, oh geez, that's very little movement. Not going to worry about that. Nothing I can do about it. This tells me that the trunnion and the blade are all in line with the miter slot. Now we need to move to the actual fence, which I'm not exactly sure if mine's properly aligned. So let's check that out. Now we're going to test the fence. Go ahead and slide this into our miter slot. It actually slides there as well. I haven't tested that yet. And we're going to bump the fence up to the gauge. Doesn't matter really where it lands. So we've got it zeroed in at the very bottom. Hopefully you'll be able to see this movement. And it's not that far off. It's just at the very end. Now here's a look at the gauge at the end of the fence. You can see it's definitely not perfect. Now it's not a huge deal, but this may cause some binding. And I've noticed that from time to time. When I'm putting a piece in, it will kind of get tight. Although it measured out straight as far as I could tell. With a square it was straight, but it's certainly not perfect. We'll adjust that. I'm not going to show that on camera. It's different for every table saw. And we'll go ahead and slide it back, and you can see it goes right back to zero. Now hopefully you enjoyed this video, and maybe it saved you $1 or $2. I know for me it saved me $70. I did not have to buy any of this. I already had the gauge, which this is the Harbor Freight gauge, and I already had the scrap wood, the glue, that kind of thing. If you're into woodworking and have a table saw, there's a chance that you have most of these items excluding this dial gauge. Again, I will post a link in the description below the video to Amazon where you can purchase this. I'm not sure how much they are there, but again, Harbor Freight, $15 all day long. And also, I did notice this was not the first video on this subject. As soon as I saw the ad in my email, I got the bright idea, hey, nobody's came up with this. Sure enough, there's a million of them. But I haven't seen one that was quite this simple. A lot of them had various adjustments on them and that kind of thing, which you don't need unless you've got multiple table saws. Chances are you only have one and you don't need any adjustment on it. You just kind of set it and forget it. So hopefully this saved you a lot of time as well. I know for me this took about 15 minutes, and the majority of that was just me walking out back to my shed to get the scraps. I also have Amazon links to a lot of the other tools I use below the video in the description. If you'd like, check those out as well. If you like the channel, please subscribe. Kind of all over the place. We do some woodworking, we do some reviews, some motorcycle builds, which I hope to be having another motorcycle build coming up here in the near future. Actually, I know I will. It's an 83 YZ250, so if you're into that, be sure to look out for that. Helping a friend. Be sure to comment and post any questions if you have them. And as always, thanks for watching.